Everybody, if you're really just starting your relationship with Jesus, one key thing that we should know is that Jesus claimed to be God. So the reason this is important is because if you're starting your relationship with Jesus, again, you're saying, can I trust this guy? And you need to learn, or at least be able to identify who he said he was. And so if you were dating a young lady, I don't know if you're a guy or a gal listening to this, but if you were dating a young lady and she claimed to be the Prince of England, you would obviously hesitate dating her unless you could, in fact, what? Verify she was the indeed Princess of England. So one of the challenges that we have, or one of the steps we should take, is then being able to identify and verify, who did Jesus say he was? Again, because what Jesus wants, and I don't want you to be deceived. Jesus wants to invite you to come follow him, to be in a relationship with him, to literally submit your will to his, to say, you're God, therefore I'm going to do what you want, not always what I want. Now, that's kind of the end goal, in the sense that that's what Jesus is inviting you to. But he starts by saying, come, test me, be skeptical, see if what I say is true and if who I am coincides with reality. So we have to answer two questions. Is Jesus who he said he was? And number two, did he do what he said he would do? And what I mean is, did he resurrect from the dead? Because our faith in Jesus is going to be based on two things. It's going to be based on the person of Jesus and the event of the resurrection. Everything hinges on this. This is why Christianity isn't so much about the rules, though again, love has boundaries. It's not so much about, hey, the things you got to give up or stop doing, but there'll be behaviors that you one day go, that harms my relationship with Jesus. I don't know that I want to do it anymore. There'll also be changes in your life where you'll go, once I thought this was so important. It's not anymore. Not because you're a boring, sitting in a pew, staring at the wall Christian, but because you're going to go, what? The life that Jesus has for me is so much more exciting. What I once thought was so important isn't that big a deal anymore. But over here, these things, the eternal things, have great value. In fact, Jesus says something like this: what good is it for you to gain the whole world, the temporary things, but lose your soul forever? And so one of the places that I want to invite you to check Jesus out, again, we have 4 books about Jesus: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I want to invite you to go to John 8. And one of the main arguments that you may be coming up against as you're kind of doing your own research is Jesus never claimed to be God. Over and over, I hear people say that. In fact, the Islamic community believes that absolutely Jesus never claimed to be God. The Hindu and Buddhist world say that, well, he may have claimed to be God, but he's just one of the many gods. But Jesus, over and over and over in Scripture, claimed a unique relationship with God and an exclusive claim that I am the only way to God. So again, here's the person who wants to have a relationship with you. And now he said, this is who I am. Your job is to go, well, let me go see if it's true. Again, why is this important? Well, because I believe if you're at this point, truth is important to you. And truth is what we should be all about. Again, we don't have to beat people over the head with it. We don't have to harm people with it. But there's no sense living in a lie, right? Especially when we're talking about something as important as eternal life. And so I invite you to check Jesus, to challenge Jesus. Did he claim to be God? So I'm in John 8. Now remember, the Bible's got 66 books. And in each book, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, those are 4 different books. There are chapters and then verses. The chapters, I always joke and tell people, are the big numbers. And then the verses are the little numbers. So you go find big number, John 8, and then find little number, John 56. Let me read to you just a little section. Jesus is speaking to a group of people, and he's talking about Abraham. Now, if you don't know Abraham, Abraham's like way at the very beginning of the Bible. You got to go all the way back to the book of Genesis, like the first book of Genesis. In fact, you may hear people reference him as Father Abraham because he's the father of the Jewish religion and the father of the Islamic religion and the father of the Christian religion. So all 3 religions claim Father Abraham as their father, and so much you can get into in that history. But what is important is that Jesus is claiming to have seen Abraham and hung out with Abraham. Now, that's a big deal, and you're going to see that the people in this passage go, You claim to have hung out and seen Abraham? Check out what it says. Ready? John 8:56. Your ancestor Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day. Jesus is speaking to a crowd of people saying, Abraham would rejoice the day he would see me. He indeed saw it and was glad. Then the Jews said to him, You're not even 50 years old yet, and you've seen Abraham? Problem there, right? Unless you're God. If you're God, then you don't live in time with the rest of us, right? If you're God, you're outside of time. And so the fact that you've seen Abraham and hung out with Abraham isn't a big deal if you are indeed telling the truth and you're God. Then Jesus goes on and says this, and this is so huge. I don't want you to miss this. Jesus said to them, Very truly I tell you, before Abraham, I am. Now, if you didn't fall off your chair, okay, it's because you don't understand the context of what was being said. You see, all the way back in the book of Exodus, so Genesis, Exodus, the second book of the Bible, we have the story of Moses. And you may have heard some of this story with the parting of the Red Sea and leading the Israelites out of 400 years of slavery and bondage in Egypt into the promised land of Israel. And they go into the desert, and you have the stories of the Ten Commandments. And if you're of a different generation, you may have seen Charlton Heston play that. If you're of a different generation, you may have seen, I think it was Christian Bale play Moses. Just depends on what movie you're watching. But if you go all the way back to the book of Exodus, Moses, when he's first called by God and encounters God, he does it at a burning bush. Now, I know this is a miraculous story, but if God is real, then miracles aren't really a big deal. In fact, the greatest miracle of all is what? Creation, right? If God can make everything out of nothing, nothing else is a big deal. In fact, creation is probably one of the best arguments for God. How did we get here if there isn't something outside of time, space, and matter that made it? Good question. So Jesus is saying, I don't exist within time. And then he says this, when Moses was at the burning bush, and Moses said to the burning bush, to God, Who do I tell them sent me? What's your name? This was so important to Moses. I need to know your name. Names were a big deal. And the voice from the bush cried out, I am. Now Jesus, speak his words again, because the Jews viewed I am as sacred. Okay? So very truly Jesus said, I tell you, before Abraham was, I am. Meaning that he's older than Abraham. He existed before Abraham. Now, just in case you're like, Aaron, you're making this up. This isn't what really was going on. Check out verse 59. So they picked up stones to throw at him, meaning they were going to kill him with stones. But Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. Now, you don't kill somebody for making a Popeye joke. I am what I am. I hope you're laughing at home, or else this was really silly. All right? You kill someone if they've claimed to be God, and according to what? The Ten Commandments, you can have no other gods before me. If somebody who isn't God claims to be God, they should be stoned. Now, again, this is important because while the people there, the Jews who were going to stone Jesus, didn't buy into it yet, it's important to remember that neither did the disciples. And why is that important? Because you may not buy into it yet, and that's okay. Jesus is inviting you to fact check him, to check him out, to see if what he said, who he claimed to be, and what he did with the resurrection is true. That's the journey you're on. Can I trust Jesus? Is he who he said he was? Well, right here is a great example of who Jesus claimed to be. He claimed to be God. Now, here's the final thing I want to say to you. There are far too many people I know that are kind of lukewarm Christians, what I would consider Christian atheists. And this may be why you've struggled with Christianity, because too many people just aren't all the way in. They claim to believe, but the problem is that even the demons believe that Jesus is God. You see, you can't just have faith that Jesus is God. What we're aiming for is life-changing, total commitment to Jesus, life transformation, because you've experienced the grace, the glory, and the power of God, and you just love God so much that there's nothing else that you want more. That's what Jesus is inviting you to follow. One more caveat. He doesn't say it's going to be easy. In fact, he says sometimes life gets harder when you follow me. Why? Because truth's hard to follow, right? It's easy to follow a lie, at least for a little while, right? And I say that to you because, again, I'm not trying to peddle something to you. I don't want you to be hoodwinked later. Jesus is madly in love with you and wants you to follow him, wants you to come and change the world with him. He's looking for disciples, people who are willing to say, you're in charge, I'm not. Which, by the way, sounds like a great amount of freedom, because I've messed up my life enough that really there's only one way to experience joy, and that's when I go, God, I gave it all to you. All the hurt, all the pain, all the sin, all the mistakes, all the baggage. And what'd you do? You gave me the glory of your name, the privilege of being called your son or your daughter. That's what I got for you today, guys. Again, keep checking the facts about Jesus. He's inviting you. Come, check me out. Explore. See if it's real. Send us the questions. You can send them to the church, faithignited.info. You can check us out online at Faith Ignited. We got a YouTube channel. We got a podcast. Check out all those places to see, is Jesus who he said he was? And send us your questions. We'll respond to them. Have a great day, guys. Bye.